If you knew what your true yes was and what your true no was in all areas of your life, would you be able to choose faster and easier? What futures would those choices create? Everyone is capable of connecting to their bodies in a way to have more exuberant and joyful living now and in the future. Now, here is your host of Choosing a Different Future with Siris.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Siris Rivas Verdejo, and today's show topic is rediscovering the creative path as a creator with Justin Scott. And in case you're new to our show is all about what choices you can make, what language you can use, what possibilities are available to you so that you can create a life beyond what's been projected and expected of you. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. I'm really, really excited for multiple reasons. I created this show using my specialty as a life coach when empowering people to have better communication in all areas of their life, in particular, their relationships to their bodies, to their lives, to their businesses, to other people. And today's topic is going to be really, really interesting with that. I'm going to introduce our guest as well. But one of the things with this rediscovering the creative path as a creator, I want you to sit with some of these questions really quick. All right, just be here with these questions and with your body. How would you describe the experience of discovering your passion and then unexpectedly losing it? Can you imagine that? Have you ever had a moment where it seemed like a part of yourself was suddenly missing? And what was that like for you? Ever found yourself doubting your abilities and questioning your self-confidence? And what led to those feelings? So, even after experiencing all those challenges, an individual can still rediscover their true path as a creator. And all it takes is a shift in your mindset. And so our guest, Justin Scott, he is a lifelong artist who has been immersed in the world of art since his earliest steps. As the visionary behind Just Influence with Art, Justin is dedicated to assisting individuals in materializing the concepts residing within their minds and bringing them to life in the physical world. With over 3 decades of expertise in visual artistry, Justin passionately advocates for the creative spirit, encouraging all to express themselves through their chosen artistic mediums. And his website is mylifewithart.com. And so today in our episode, I'll be talking with Justin, a seasoned artist and innovative thinker. And also, in case y'all haven't been watching any of our episodes and me talking about stuff or seeing my social media, he's my man as he delves into the challenges he faced while growing up as an artist, highlighting moments of uncertainty and disorientation. And we're going to talk about some of the strategies that he's used to overcome self-doubt, frustration, envy, emptiness, so much more, so we can rediscover our true creative path. And gosh, we've really been experiencing this together this last year, but I know we're going to talk about some other things too. Yeah. Life can often present obstacles, but perhaps some of the steps that we're going to talk about today and that Justin's going to share can assist you in jumping over the hurdles that life presents, enabling your inner creativity to flourish. So hi, Justin. Welcome.
Hola.
Hello, honey.
How you doing?
I'm good. So this is the official one. You came in as a surprise guest spot like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which again, I can't thank you enough for that because that was totally unexpected. My uncle had just passed away and I was like, I really want to show up for the show and for the listeners and for my business and myself. How can I make this easier? Oh, wait, let me bring my partner in life with me on this and it'll make it easier. So thank you. And let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about your life. So paint a picture for me. I'm curious, if we were to ask your family, if you were to go back and see yourself as an artist when you were a kid, because you've been doing this since how old now? Like
as long as I can remember. I do remember memories of me drawing on the walls at my grandmother's house. Me pretty much making anything into art. If there was some water and it can make something like mud or anything like that, I was smeared in on stuff. I was just, making things. I like to doodle. That was my thing when I was a child. And I was probably a toddler, like five,
Mhm.
6, 7, somewhere around there. Young child. But yeah, I was, yeah, as far as I can remember.
And was there anything in particular back then and over the course of your life that inspires you to create and to do art?
Honestly, it's not really like it's not like a thing that's external. It's more internal feeling. Like I've always felt like it's what I love. It's part of me. It's something that like if I don't get to do it, I don't feel whole. And
Mm.
it's always been something I gravitate towards when I'm out in the external world and I see art things, I see, animation, I see things that, fall under the art category for me. I naturally just gravitate towards it. And I don't really pay attention to it until I'm there or until I'm watching it or experiencing it. And I'm like, oh, this feels right. And yeah.
Well, and on a personal note, I it's so interesting for you to say again that when you don't do it, you don't feel whole. I remember way in the beginning, maybe the first like 6 months of us dating, perhaps we had this conversation where I was writing and you were doing art on the side. And it was one of the first times that we had done that together, like had a like little creative playtime. And your whole energy changed. It was like I turned to you and I was like, who are you? Hi. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is who you are. And then I realized I was like, okay, so who have I really been dating? And when we get married, who would I really be marrying if you're not doing this? If you're not really embracing this and nurturing this aspect of you. So I turned to you. Do you remember what I said?
Nope, I'm not gonna play you. No, I'm not gonna do that to myself. Go ahead. Go ahead, say it. I'm not about to make a fool of myself. Nope, not happening. Go ahead, do it.
It was okay. I have no interest in dating somebody or marrying someone that isn't who they are. And so you need to figure this out and really make sure you have this as a part of your life. Otherwise, who is this person that I'm going on this life journey with? Like it's like it was like this, not even a dialed down version of you. It was like a shadow. In the difference of how much you were like, whew, so much more there, so much happier, but calmer. The buzzing, like how I pick up on the mental chatter of other
Yeah.
people. The buzzing was like shh, it quieted down. And so I could so quickly see why you love it and why you require it and it's been a part of your life. So take me through like how it came to pass that you started actually delving into it as a profession and not from this natural ability that you had as a kid.
Well, I've always wanted to do it. Like when I was younger, it wasn't a profession that was highly looked into or requested or, cheered upon. It was one of those things where, you had the whole cliche starving artist and all this other silliness that people joked about it. It's like, hey, you're an artist. Okay, so what do you do for real? And it's like, so, even though I had family members, friends, my parents, everybody, they encouraged me in the way that they can encourage somebody. But I didn't have um I didn't have someone truly that I could bounce those ideas off of or I could do it with, like a kind of like a partner.
Mm.
I had people cheering me, but they can only do so much and they can only do so much for me. Where like my mother, she was very much into making sure I did the things that I said I wanted to do. One of the things I said I wanted to do, start getting into art more seriously. So she would have me going into, art classes. And in Broad Ripple, they had an art center there, and so I took classes there. She made sure I was, doing the things I needed to do so I could hit those, get those electives in school. Making sure that after school, I was, doing things. I made sure I took care of the stuff I was supposed to do. And then, if I had free time, she's like, hey, why don't you do this? Do some art, blah, blah. And it's cool. But at the same time, um, even though I was one of 11 kids, my mother only had me. So I still kind of had that only child situation going on. And so it's still, when I did things I enjoyed, that I was really passionate about, I did want to share that with somebody. And it wasn't just anybody. I wanted to share with somebody that also had that same passion or kind of was in that same realm. And I didn't really have that. And so it was kind of a weird situation because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. But at the time, especially in high school, you know, you're looking for colleges and things like that. Art classes and art schools and things like that were very niche. So they were wildly expensive. Whereas regular college didn't cost as much. And so, of course, that's usually where you went down that road if you weren't rich or had somebody paying for your college. And so eventually I was kind of like, well, that was a nice dream. It was fun. Let me go ahead and do this other stuff because I was into tech too. So I started I went to school for, you know, web design, you know, graphic design, eventually IT, things like that. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, this isn't really what I want to do. And so eventually I kept trying, everything kept leading back to art, no matter what it was, personal life, professional life, whatever. Something always led back to that. And it was kind of like, I can't keep avoiding it. So yeah, in my 20s, when I went to college in Florida, I went to Full Sail, which is an art school, or I guess any kind of entertainment and art school now. But at that time, it was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna seriously do what I have to do to get there. And so that was the start of when I was like, I'm going to do this seriously, and pretty much just went from there.
Well, and one of the things that I'm hearing as you're saying, and I can definitely relate, is this idea of not really having like a mentor. That it's one thing to support you and be like, okay, sure, this is the things you can do, and I'm going to support you as a parent. But at the same time, while you're hearing, because you're super psychic too, you're hearing the limiting point of view of this is only as so far that you can go with this, or this isn't as valuable as these other things that you could do. There's some comments in our live chat room, and if you guys aren't in our live chat room yet, please join us at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com/chat room. And there's some comments from other people who are also carving pictures into the wood by a window, that they were also playing around with different artistic expression, and that their parents entertained it in different ways. But there was definitely this question that came up with them of like, well, what are you going to do for your real job? Like, yeah. So there's definitely a lot of empathy from our chat room. Thank you so much for chiming in.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Because I get that in the sense of like, I was basically the one that knew the most English when we were coming in, and my parents knew English, but I was often then translating for them. So I couldn't really rely on them for English when I was here coming from Puerto Rico into the United States. And you were growing up in Indianapolis. When you're saying Broad Ripple, that's the part of Indianapolis where you were growing up. So for any of our listeners who are in Indiana, hello. And it sounds like your mom, being a young mom too, was doing the best she could. And she was probably passing on to you some of the things that she was hearing from her parents about the value of art and doing this as a business as
Very
well.
possible.
So you went to college. Let's go ahead and check in, and let's talk a little bit more about that after we take a short break. But I really want to hear when we come back about what your journey there and what you discovered about yourself and your art while you were in Florida. So everyone, you're listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we will continue to discuss rediscovering the creative path as a lost creator with Justin Scott. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris, and today our show topic is Rediscovering the Creative Path as a Lost Creator with Justin Scott. And just so you know, our show is brought to you by Protanden's Tri-Synergizer. Take advantage of the important contribution from every Protandim supplement. You get comprehensive benefits, including support for healthy aging, optimal cellular energy, improved mental focus, and healthy longevity. It's a level of benefits you can only get from teamwork. Whoa, whoa.
Yeah. Ooh.
The
It's good.
Protandim family of products works by activating your body's pathways to enhance its own functions. The result of this triple tier approach is our most powerful solution. And you can go to our episodes page for more information or to sirisrivas.lifevantage.com. And before we went on break, we were talking about you having explored and knowing that you were this artist from a very, very young age, and how you were supported in some ways by family as best as they could, but you really were seeking to geek out and to share these experiences, your inspiration, your ideas with somebody else. And then you went to Florida, and then what happened there?
Florida.
And feel free to
Was an
swear, and everyone be warned.
It was an experience. So it started off bad, which usually me being kind of naturally paranoid in general, cautious about stuff, I should have took that as the red flag, but it was like, nah, I'm gonna do this because I always get too kind of cautious. Let me focus on just doing this and ignore all the other silliness that comes with it. Cool. That started off real bad. I had a cousin, I guess she's a cousin, like by marriage, and so we were gonna room together. And so when I got down there, we had a plan, everything set up. She jumped the gun too quick, so I was already down money as soon as I got there. We were supposed to have a free month of rent, so that was issue number one. I'm like, well, can't focus on school right now because now I got to hurry up and start working again. And so instead of starting the date that I said I was going to start, I was like, I need to start now. So then that became an issue. School itself was kind of different from what is explained. Even though the school is in Winter Park, I was living in Orlando. It was about 45 minutes away. I was in an online classes. I was in an online degree, so I didn't technically have to go to school. Well, then they explained that certain things are a lot more accessible when you're at the school versus online, because they have to give you the online version or all these different tools and passwords and things to get into access to things, which worked half the time. So the work I was supposed to be doing, I didn't always have access to. So that became an issue in itself. Then
Animation there?
Yeah, huh?
You were studying animation there?
Yes, my degree was in animation. Yes, I was doing digital, like 3D animation, 3D modeling. And then also we were doing like cartoon animation as well, storyboards and things like that for that. And I was really into that. That was so much fun. That got me through quite a bit because I was never a big school person, didn't care for it at all. But this made me want to go to school because it's like I'm learning things that are in the realm that I wanted to learn stuff in. So it was like, yeah, I want to know all this. So that was cool. This was in 2010. So dealt with that. Then my roommate, my cousin, decided to skip. And so then it was a rush of, well, I'm online. Do I just go back to Indiana and finish doing this? Or do I stay here and try and find another roommate? I ended up finding another roommate with a guy that I worked with at the time. And so that kind of worked out pretty well for the most part. And then towards the fall, my ace, my brother, and he passed. And then that was when pretty much life as I knew it was kind of over. Like I just didn't care at that point.
Well, and also
But
at the same time, if I remember correctly, some stuff happened with the roommate and your art materials, right? Like
that was
what?
after, oddly enough. So
Okay, so
my
you're
brother passed in August
okay.
2010. I go up to Indiana. And so I'm there. Um, they do the whole burial thing, do the funeral thing, all that. And I come back and I'm back in school. Everything's still kind of cool for the most part. And then I decide, because my brother had passed and I saw my family, I was like, I'm gonna come up there for Christmas. So I go up there during Christmas, and this is when I was found out that things weren't going as well at the apartment in Florida. Because when I come back, everything is pretty much water damaged. And the way the apartments in Florida were, there's a lot of sprinklers in every room in the ceiling. And so it usually takes a really high heat or a crazy amount of smoke to set them off, at least in the apartment complex we were in. And so we had a pact that there was no smoking, because I don't smoke, but he did. But he knew, he was like, I don't do this in the house. I'll do that when I'm out and about. Cool. So it was like, there shouldn't have been any smoke. And so when I'm asking him what happened, he was saying that he didn't know because it happened while he was at work. And so when I came in, he was at work. And so when I came in, everything was wet and it smelled like water had been everywhere. And it was like, what's going on? I immediately go into my room. Everything's gone. My laptop, my hard drives, the paintings I had started, everything water damaged. I couldn't recover any of it. So I was already not really caring much about other people at that moment because of my brother passing. And then I come back and I lose the last thing that like majorly mattered to me. And so at that point, it was like, I don't care about none of this. So everybody can get it. You say anything crazy to me, I'm going to jail today. I was like, I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be here. I don't want to do anything that involves me interacting with anybody. And so at that point, I lost it like immediately. And it's probably a good thing he was not there.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it became a matter of, it went downhill even more because our lease wasn't up until May. And shortly after that, he just disappeared. Don't know what happened. Even though everybody that was around me that I talked to about everything that happened, they joked and they were like, what'd you do with him? I was like, I didn't do anything. He just left. And then
second roommate that just
this is my second roommate. So that was another red flag. It was like, if I'd have never gotten my cousin initially as my roommate, this wouldn't have happened. If I'd have went back home right after that happened, this wouldn't have happened. So it was like so many things that just kept getting thrown back in my face. Like, if you just stopped being stubborn and just went home with your gut, this stuff wouldn't have happened. So yeah, I was definitely feeling depressed, feeling guilty.
It sounds like there's a mix of gut and a lot of external factors and things like that. So, because your gut was also saying, I'm an artist and I want to develop this skill and I want to be lit up about school and about my experiences with this. And this is one of the first places that you had that.
Yep.
And then just these other moving pieces were affecting that, as it can. So how did it go from this to you deciding to do art as a business? Or was that like art as a business was before that and then you were doing schooling to support it? Like, how did that relate to
I hadn't started doing the business yet. And I did little odds and ends stuff for people, like little club flyers or album covers, little silly stuff like that. I made character designs here and there, but it was nothing like, oh, I have a business. I wasn't serious about that because I was focusing on doing animation, which I hadn't done up to that point. I was always doing like regular graphic design and stuff like that. And so I was like, I want to do this animation thing. So I would like focus on that. Well, after everything hit the fan, I just kind of was like, the idea of, working for a big company, either a video game studio or a movie studio, DreamWorks, any of these things at that time was my main focus. Well, after that, after the thing kind of went over, I was over it. And so I was like, I don't even want to see art. I don't want to deal with art. Art doesn't exist anymore. And so when I came back to Indiana, because shortly after that, everything went bad with the roommate, I just said, I'm done with Florida. I can't. And so my brother and my father came and scooped me up, and we went back to Indiana. And from there on out, I was just kind of like, I'm back in Indiana. This is what it is. And it just echoed when I told people that I was moving to Florida. People were like, why would you do that? Like, why are you leaving Indiana? Like, I got that from a lot of people, whether they meant it or if it was a joke or if they just kind of said it kind of under their breath. I caught all of it. And so, now that I'm back in Indiana, I just felt like a failure, because it was like the thing I set out to do, which everybody was like, why are you doing that? You probably shouldn't do that. You didn't plan that well enough, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, whether or not it went the way I wanted it to go or not, I'm back here and I didn't achieve what I was trying to achieve. So you can just say, I told you so. Regardless if you know what happened or whatever, I'm here in your face. So obviously something didn't go right. So I didn't feel great about that. Then of course, immediately you're dealing with
that. And there's some of our listeners here on the chat room that are saying, woof, sorry about all that, one thing after the other, glad you made it through. So they're sending you some love. One of the things with this as well that I'm hearing, we've commiserated this about my plans to move to Australia, and how I had all these great plans to move to Australia, and I applied for the visa. The Department of Immigration there was like processing it, and I was just going to be staying in Savannah, Georgia with my mom, helping her move from Illinois to Savannah until I heard back from Australia, because I was going to move to Brisbane. I love Brisbane. And fast forward, that initial application for interest lasts about 2 years. So I'm just waiting and waiting. And I didn't want to like completely commit to like a school year somewhere or a job somewhere. And because I thought Australia is going to call me at any moment. Like it's going to happen. So, and everything in me when I was there was like, this is the energy of what's your next step. I made it about Australia, but it wasn't really about Australia. It was about the energy of not being in Chicago and living somewhere else and exploration and doing my own thing and all of that. So in hindsight, and and I've heard this because we've talked about this a lot, it was so shitty. It was a shit show. It was back to back to back, all these different things. And so I really commend you for even being here, because you totally shut down and had like a reset in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so how did you start to take the steps to come out of that shutdown, to come out of that, grief and sadness over the loss of your brother, who, like you said, he was your ace. He was it was you and him at the hip from all the stories I've heard. So how did you start taking the steps in the midst of everyone potentially explicitly or implicitly judging you for even considering leaving and going on your own path?
Well, one main thing was I kind of felt guilty that my brother passed and I wasn't there. Because while I was living in Florida, me and him were supposed to move together eventually and live in Atlanta together. And he ended up going to Atlanta, but things didn't turn out well for him. And so when I got back to Indiana, he was gone already. I just felt like I made a lot of poor decisions. And even though things didn't work out the way it was, I wasn't able to see the bright side or the learning, the lessons that happened in that. I wasn't able to see any of that at the time. It took me a very long time to even rethink any of that and go, okay, that was something I learned from that. Okay, that was something else. Because all I could see was the bad choices that I made, or the choice that took my brother from me, or took my art from me. I guess it was the victim role, or whatever the case may be. I just felt sorry for myself at the same time, but I was mad at myself for not listening, because I'd always had a problem with listening to people, according to people around me when I was growing up. I did what I wanted to do for the most part. I heard a lot, I did a lot, but I also wanted to do my own thing, and I gambled on a lot of things, and I could see the outcome of a lot of stuff, but all it would take is just that one little detail that could mess that up, and I would gamble that. And so all I felt was just straight negativity for a while. Um, what ended up getting me back into it was just living in Indiana and not really having, I didn't feel whole. I didn't feel like this is where I was supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to be having the jobs that I was having. I mean, I liked the people that I was around, my family and everything like that. They helped me get through all that. But they also eventually started telling me, hey, why are you not doing this? Because you could tell that I was kind of trying to fill a hole that I knew none of that could fill. And I wasn't able to do anything at 100% really. I was as close as you could get without actually being there. And some people who were very intuitive or knew me, they could tell. They were like, something's off. You don't know what it is, but something's off. And then going through all my moves and things like that, eventually I came across one of the bins that my mom had, that I stored in her garage forever, and it had my art stuff in it. And when I was moving it, I was looking at it and I was like, oh yeah, I used to do this stuff.
Oh,
And
this
it was
is
like,
me.
yeah, it's like, yo, and it made me feel good. But at the same time, I wasn't ready to face that because I had tied that with the passing of my brother and all the craziness that happened in Florida. So until I could kind of separate those two, I still didn't want to have anything to do with art, because it just brought up negative feelings. And so
Let's
it
go
had
ahead and
probably,
pause right there for a moment because we could definitely, I want to
oh
dive more
yeah,
into this for sure. It's time for our second break, y'all. So when we return, we're going to continue to discuss Justin Scott's journey in the rediscovering the creative path as a lost creator. And you're listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is rediscovering the creative path as a lost creator with our guest, Justin Scott. And our show is brought to you by Protanden's Tri-Synergizer. Take advantage of the important contribution from every Protandan supplement. You get comprehensive benefits, including support for healthy aging, optimal cellular energy, improved mental focus, and healthy longevity. It's the level of benefits you can only get from teamwork. And you can find out more information about this on our episodes page or by going to sirisrivas.lifevantage.com. And I would love to let you know about some of our upcoming events. We are going to be in Chicago. Both Justin and I are going to be in our awakening class. on November 4th. And that's going to be, the theme is Coming Home to You. That's Saturday, November 4th. And it's in person in Chicago. Please come and play, or live streaming wherever you are in your home around the world. And we have our Expansive Energy Self-Care Group. The theme of October is honoring and celebrating ancestral wisdom. Yum-tastic. It's going to be great for this season to really tap into and honor our loved ones and the wisdom that they've passed on to us through the generations, while also caring for ourselves. And then our next Being a Different Possibility monthly call is going to be on family and money, financial literacy, and health. That's October 23rd, 6 p.m. Eastern. So come and play with us. And if you'd like to be meeting us in person in Charlotte, North Carolina, it's Sunday, October 29th. We're going to have a live meet and greet for our Being a Different Possibility for families. Now, Justin, before we went on this last break, we were talking about your journey and how it took you from Indiana to Florida to back, how your brother passed away and impacted you at the same time that you lost so much of your art materials. And then you found this bin that your mom had of your art, and you started to, what did it start making you feel? How did this play a role in your journey to do art as a business?
So even though at that time I wasn't ready to really face art yet, I was happy to find some of the stuff. I was able to get access after talking with the school. I was able to get access to some of the work that I had submitted to the teachers. I didn't really have the files on how to like edit them or anything. I had like the finished work files. So I was able to see some of the things that I had done, and it was kind of cool. Because of all the craziness that happened at the school, I was able to actually, they sent me in like 2014 or so. They sent me a kind of an offer to take a certificate course. And so doing that, I decided that I needed to go ahead and at least try to get back into this. At that time, after finding the bin with my stuff in it, I started talking a little bit more to people. At that time, a woman that I was dating was very adamant about me doing the things that made me happy, because she was trying to find that herself and do that more herself. And she knew I did art. And so with the bin, there was a notebook in there that I used to sketch in. So I, would take it to work. And at that time, I was doing the customer service thing and was working in a call center. So I just had a desk, and in between calls and things, I would start sketching, start randomly doing things. And it felt better to really start getting it out there. My paternal grandmother also would always ask for certain things, a thing to be done. And so there was one point where she wanted me to do to edit a family photo we had. We had done a family photo for the first time since we were kids, with me and my siblings, my father, and my grandmother and grandfather. And so what she wanted me to do was edit the background out, since it was a solid background. And she knew I played around in Photoshop. She was like, I want you to crop out the background and put a picture of your brother back there. And so I was like, and she was like,
I've not heard of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so that was the first time I actually did an actual art completion, a little project, and also dealt with my brother at the time. And so it was a lot because, it was still a lot of stuff, kind of going around his whole passing and everything. And it was a lot of unanswered questions, and to this day still are. But I was able to at least talk about it more. My grandmother she's always been very spiritual and in tune and things like that. So she was like, everybody was telling me how they had him in his dream and blah, 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 and all these things. And at that time, it was around the time I also stopped working at that call center and I started working for Pepsi. And I was a merchandiser. So I'd drive around to all the stores in the morning at the crack of dawn. And I remember one morning I was at a store, and I just recalled the dream I had that night. And that was the first time my brother had kind of visited me in my dream. And at that point, I kind of felt more at ease, a little bit more peace with that whole thing. And from there on, I was like, all right. Because one of the things he said in the dream was like, he's like, what you waiting for? Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Why ain't you doing it? And even though other people have been saying that and encouraging me to get back in it and do that, it was kind of like that last piece I needed. And so that allowed me to go back into like taking the sketching seriously and actually start doing things for people. So I did a couple more graphics for some folks. I also started then working around that time. It was probably like 2015 or so. I started working at Apple. And even though I was like customer service, I knew a lot of people there, having worked there for so long. After a while, I was able to like get in and do like little side projects with like the marketing team and, do art and stuff with them and kind of, get to know them a little bit more. And so I started doing things a lot more. But at the same time, I still felt like I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I wasn't supposed to be doing customer service. I was still supposed to be in Indiana. And then so it still felt like a piece of me was missing, even though I had kind of started doing art more. It was like, this isn't what I want to do. And so Apple became kind of a starting point because I worked from home the entire time. So from 2015 up until now, I've always been at home. And so because of that, it allowed me to have more time to do art. It allowed me to be able to, in between time, get on my computer, on my personal computer, and start doing more things. And it allowed me to start looking into, learning new programs and new tools and things like that, because I was always at a computer. I could look at, tutorials or look at YouTube videos or go read books and articles from artists and things like that, and really just soak up a lot of information. And before you know it, yeah.
So I just wanted to chime in here in the chat. We've got some really great discussions and comments. I think a lot of people are relating to your stories and to feeling like they've kind of gone off the path that they originally thought that they were going to go on, and the things that can come up with that. There was a comment earlier that I meant to read about, it's such a common thing I've heard from my entertainment and artist friends over the years. A few found their feet when they got older, but I always wonder what would have happened if they, if they wouldn't have had those words of what are you going to do for your real job? Especially when young, yeah, I hear you on that. And then most recently, this discussion's bringing up some stuff for folks that could think. This makes me start to think about what passions I buried as a child over the years because of all of the appeared red flags or obstacles. And that's the thing, is that like there you can see something as a red flag or an obstacle. One of the things that I love that I learned from Michael Burnoff and a couple of other mentors of mine is this whole saying like, okay, this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me, and be like, how is this happening for me? And we've had those discussions as well. So one of the things I love is that your family supported you actually tapping into your spirituality in addition to your art, and try to give you tasks to explore it more, and to have a way for you to play around with it and use your capacities, use this gift that you have. So that's really, really commendable, because a lot of people, they don't have the people that would be like, hey, go for it. This is you. This is what you obviously are gifted at. This is something that brings you joy. When you're not doing this, we see how different you are. So just wanted to point that out, that like you had these different supports. You knew that you weren't supposed to be in Indiana, that you knew that this was not exactly the right concoction of ingredients that you wanted for your life. And so how did you even come up with the My Life with Art? That already existed, right? Like your website, My Life with Art, happened before you moved, right? Out of Indiana?
No.
Oh.
So my website, I've always tinkered around website because that was one of the first things I went to school for, was web design. So I've always had a website, whether or not I was utilizing it or promoting it or doing anything with it at all. I've always had a website, and it's always bounced around from web host to web host because it's expensive. And so eventually, probably say around 2018, I had decided that I was going to at least have a place to put my digital art and things like that, pictures of my art, because it was like I played around so long. I had already got burned by having all of my stuff in physical form somewhere. And so I was like, I need to at least have it somewhere online to where I can access it if I need to. So I decided to make a new website. And at that time, it was Just Influence with Art, because that's actually that's my art Instagram page name. And so I was like, let me just go ahead and do that. And so Just Influence was always something that I'd always had anyway. Any variation of my name, that's always been a thing. And so I was like, Just Influence isn't used by a lot of things yet. Let me go ahead and just start scooping it up. So I was getting the web addresses and email addresses and the handle names on websites and social media and things like that. And made a website, started putting my stuff on there, but still wasn't fully able to focus on it, because at that time I started getting migraines and things like that, or at least what I thought were migraines. Of course, both my parents getting migraines, they both told me pretty quickly, you're not having migraines. But I was having like all these like external issues in 2018. And it just seemed like one of those things where it was like, something right. But I also knew that it's because I was not doing what I should have been doing, what I was supposed to be doing in life.
So your body was talking to you.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
my body was finally explaining that to me, because I was putting mental blocks up and I was able to, just ignore stuff mentally. But it got to the point where it was like, well, we're going to scream at you. Your body's going to rebel, and it's going to let you know how it feels because you're not paying attention to it.
It's like, okay, you don't hear me? Let me raise the volume.
Exactly. let me crank this up for you, make life a little annoying for you, and we'll see how you react to that.
Well, actually, it's time for our next break already. How crazy is that? Wow. Okay. So everybody, you're listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we will continue to discuss rediscovering the creative path as a lost creator with Justin Scott. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you. This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic has been rediscovering the creative path as a lost creator with our guest, Justin Scott. And before we went on break, we were talking about Justin's journey and the different things that happened to take him off path, and him having to course correct over and over again to him being an artist, the lifelong artist he always has been. And we actually have a question from our chat room today, Justin. It says here, if we have time, maybe quickly you could address this. Do you think cultures outside of the US are more open to art as a living, or more respectful or admiring about art? Sometimes it feels like countries and cultures outside of the US or typical Western perspective, that they seem to include more of art in their conscious daily lives and have more fun and respect for it. What's your perspective on that?
In my personal experience, the people I met when I was in Florida at art school and things like that, actually, no, they were even worse. Their parents were far worse. I had a couple of Asian friends, a couple of Indian friends, a couple of white friends that weren't from the United States. And it was like a general consensus. their family was not a part of this decision at all, because they were like, you're supposed to be a doctor, you're supposed to be a scientist, you're supposed to be doing these big, great things, and you want to waste your time drawing on a pad of paper. Yeah, they were getting it bad. It was like,
Yeah, that's been my
it kind of made
experience
me
as
go,
well
oh,
with other cultures. It's especially if you're an immigrant too, or to the US, they want to make sure that you're set up for life, and the art isn't the guaranteed money in their mind. So they're gonna try to take you away from it. Now I do see what our listener is talking about in the sense of like the respect. They definitely encourage hobbies more, and like having a well-rounded life with a lot of different hobbies and things like that. But when it comes to it being a career choice, I don't think it's supported more in other cultures than in the US. It seems like an indulgence for a lot of them. It's like, okay, we would be just spoiling you, and you have your head in the clouds. So I would agree with you on that. Now, I'm curious, how is it for you? I know that we could talk more about the things that took you off and how you were course correcting, but what is the type of work that lights you up now, and what would it be like for people to work with you?
So the type of work I enjoy doing is being more creative. Yes, I can do just about all art, stuff for your business, stuff personal, things like that. But if it's more of a business need and things like that, I can do it, but that's not what gets me out of bed. Gets me out of bed is animating, coming up with characters, coming up with designs for people, so they can have it and it brings them joy. It's not just something for their businesses it's just something to make them money, things like that. It's like more passion, more creative spark, something that they've always wanted type of thing, or something they want to hang on their wall or put on clothing, things like that. That stuff is kind of cool to me. That's what makes me go, okay, you really want this. It's not a matter of you just want to make money. It's you really want this and you want to cherish this. That's really what gets me going. I really enjoy doing that. And so, yes, my website has the options for everything. I can do pretty much anything at this point. But I usually take more passion projects more than I do business. Now, if your business is your passion, we can talk and I'll see what that's about. But it's more of a, you have an idea, you have something you want to bring to life, and you just don't have the skills or the tools or the person to truly bring that to the forefront. And so that's the kind of stuff I like and want, to bring more of into the world. Because yes, there's a lot of people that have, passions, that have creativity, they have a lot of things in their head, but society or their life or whatever the case may be causes it to stay a prison, in a box or something in the back of their head, and they're never able to bring it out into the world. And so I want to be that artistic Sherpa that allows them to bring that out and present it to everyone. And yeah, that's me as far as it goes. And the only reason I was able to do that or even come to a conclusion of that is because I stuck with my inner child, my inner feeling, the idea of what brings you joy, what makes you feel whole. And so I didn't ignore that feeling, and anything that fed into that, I tried to continue to have that around. So whether it be friends, family, the interactions with strangers, just talking to people in that field helped a lot. Learning that when you lose everything, it's almost like a rite of passage for most artists, songwriters, creators, anything. You lose all your tools or something crazy happens to them and you have to start over. It's almost like a rite of passage. And so as long as you can weather that storm, you still continue to let that passion fire burn. You just keep it going, and just never give up, because you will regret it in the end.
Thank you for that. So you heard it straight here from Justin Scott, our guest, and you can reach him at mylifewithart.com, and also he's on Instagram and Facebook, and check him out. You can DM our show and message us as well if you'd like a connection, if you're having a hard time, and we will see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Choosing a Different Future show. Siris returns Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, keep choosing what will work for you and your body, your own